Hello there, this is Glauz and I just uploaded my Unity package. This video is a tutorial for those who want to use my two scripts and add more flavor to the levels. And that would be triggers and platforms. If you already received my scripts in class, then this is slightly updated and I suggest you delete the specific scripts that I'm going to tell you in this video later, for if you want to have this script in particular. So first thing you need to do is have your Unity running with your project. You can test this in a different kind of level if you want to experiment it with that. But as you can see, this is the sample start from an unmodified light temple project. So this has no additional scripts. This is something you should have received whenever you first got this project. And if you downloaded my Unity package, you would receive this, platforms and triggers. So make sure you have a running Unity, and if you double click on that, a import Unity package will come up. And for those who did download or received my scripts from last class, you need to make sure you find the interactable.cs and delete that, the move platform v2.cs and delete that, and under an editor folder you should be able to find a move platform v2 editor.cs, and you want to make sure you delete that. So you want to make sure you delete the two scripts plus the editor script for my move platform. And with that, for those that are new or that are first importing this project, you don't have to worry about anything. You just click the import button and you should be importing the package, and you'll be compiling the package, and here it should finish anytime now. And I'm going to start off with the showcase first, just to see if I can wow you and this video doesn't bore you till we go to the end of the showcase. So I'm going to have it in the beginning of the video. So if you go to the under the scenes folder here, you notice you have the platforms and triggers scene. So if you double click on that, you can see how I built this level. It only uses those two scripts just to make this level. And if you hit play, of course you can play it. And it's a good way to show off the level. And not only that, it allows you to pick this level apart and see how I accomplish all of this with just those two scripts. And this is running under a perspective camera now that I notice. So this is not orthographic. Normally you would have this under an orthographic camera in your project. So there's a little bit more depth here. And the first thing you see right off the bat is this is a moving platform script. And this doesn't work like moving platform script, but this gives you an idea what you can do with it. And this is simply a moving platform script that moves on 2 points, and it's set to auto start. As you can see, it's already moving back and forth, and it's set to loopable. So it's, as you can see, each one has a different speed here. So this one's a bit faster, and then this one's even faster. And we're going to try to dodge that. Then the next thing that's going to be showcased is, this is your typical symbol, but this has an interactable script attached to it, and the interactable script can trigger things based on various conditions. So it can trigger right off in the beginning, the auto run. It can trigger if you enter a trigger zone or exit a trigger zone, and it can trigger if you get hit by some sort of collision, or the collision that hits you exits or stops touching you, and then it triggers that way. And then the last one that I added in this updated version is it triggers based on if the symbol is on or not. So the moment I activate the symbol, it triggers a moving platform script. And as you can see, this is a moving platform script that does not have auto start on, and it works on 2 points, and it's not loopable. So the moment it starts, it comes up, and with varying amount of speeds, it gives you this cool effect that they all come out in different times. And here's your typical moving platform script that you just stick on, and here's a wall, and you just do a little bit of platforming, you jump over it. And this is the last symbol. And actually, let me make it here. Oh no, okay. You notice that there is no block here right now, and the moment I activate that symbol, I simply set game object set to on, and there'll be a block that appears here. So let's jump back on here. I'm actually surprised I made it back in one piece. And you can, and since this is the last symbol, the camera will always pan to the door at the last symbol, so keep that in mind. And now let's just jump back on this platform for a third time. No! Okay. Well, we can skip the whole moving platform segment now. And apparently you can jump over these, so it kind of circumvents the entire dodging those moving walls. And let's just cross this, all these static moving, or all these moving platforms that are now remaining in place. And as you can see, this game object is set on. I also have an invisible trigger up here that if you go within the zone, moving very slowly, it triggers a moving platform to go down, and this one is set to non-loopable just like the other one. Basically that one worked exactly like the one we had back here. So not only can it work as like giving your character a place to walk, you can make it as an obstacle course. So here we're gonna run forward, and oh look, there's the end of the level, and nope. I put an invisible trigger back there somewhere where a ball will roll. It'll set the is kinematic to off, and then it'll start rolling, and then it'll basically kill the player. And here's the actual scene for that. This is how I made these moving platforms. And as you can see, if you click on these, you'll see there's points right here, and the green is where it starts off. And each of these moving platforms have a speed here. So here's the moving platform script right here. This one has a speed of 7, and this one has a speed of 6.5. This has a speed of 6. So you can see how each one rises to its position at different times, giving that effect. And then I have an invisible wall here, or box here, that's called temple ground up here. So if you see this, everything here that you see, the interactable script can mess with. So if you attach any scripts here, the interactable script can mess with that. So simply just toggling this off and on is something the interactable script can mess with. So let's look at the interactable script. So let's look at something that's easy to understand. This symbol has the interactable script attached to it, and it interacts with the symbol. And by simply checking set active to true right here, that will come true. So this might be very convoluted for a lot of people right now, just me explaining it. So the thing I'm going to do is we're going to start out with a sample level, and I'm going to show you how you can create a lot of these effects. So here's my copy of my sample start, and let's not save. I don't know why I would save it. And here's what you would start originally. So first things first, let's just move this moving symbol somewhere else. And let's just say all of a sudden you lose these blocks here. So there's sort of a gap here. And the way we're going to cross that gap is by having a moving platform. So that's simple enough. But first let me just delete all this clutter here. And we're going to have, well, the player is going to start with this init script. No, I do not see the init script, or the init position. I don't know why all these bubbles got disabled. So init and starting. There we go. So the player is going to start here, and then he runs to this position. Let's just move him back a bit. There we go. And we have this gap here that we need to cross. And if you play the game right now, of course, there's no way of beating this level. Simple level, yep, you can't beat it. You need to cross the level, and I noticed there's some junk there that needs to be deleted. So let's just clean that up. Nope, don't want to delete the wall. So the first thing you can do is go to game object, go to 3D object, and just create a cube. Is one way to add that moving platform. All you have to do is just, you can scale it appropriately and make it look like a moving platform like this. If you want to have the same aesthetic as like this cube, you can just take this cube and just press Control D, which copies it, and then just move it. And then you can also mess with this, and you can scale it down and turn this into a moving platform. But make sure, the most important thing is you want to make sure up here you uncheck static. If you do not uncheck that, that platform will not move at all. It's, as the name implies, it'll be static. It'll just stay in place. So if you want to have anything move at all, you always have to uncheck it. And it'll ask you to, if you want to disable the static flags for all the children, and you want to say yes, it's because it's made up of individual parts here, as you can tell. It's all just quads. So make sure you say yes to that. So now that we got this selected, let's check if this, let's put it at an appropriate level here for the player. And that looks good enough. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to click this box up here in the corner, go into orthographic mode, and hit the Y coordinate up here, and then I'm looking at a top camera perspective. And I notice this thing looks, it's actually kind of a big platform. And let's just delete all of this here. We don't need that. Whoops, make sure, there we go. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to click on this platform. Let's rename it to moving platform, and I'm just gonna give it a bubble so you can see the name of it. Oh, and make sure you save the name. Enter. There, moving platform. So the first thing you want to do is you want to add my script. So you click add component here, type in move, and you can see it right there. It's move platform v2. Kelly's version is this one. This one's my version. So for simplicity's sake and not breaking his code, it's just a different name. So you click on that and you get the moving platform right here. And you'll notice there's an auto start. There's a loopable. There's a check by default. So if you didn't want to have it start automatically, you would uncheck that. And if you want to stop or make it stop when it's at its last point, you would click on that. And then here's the speed. You can click and drag it. Don't put it negative, it breaks. And here, this is what I use for those pistons, or those moving walls that I called pistons. And if you want to not have the player stick to it, which would be kind of awkward, you make sure you check that and say it's not a platform. In this case, it's a platform. It's going to loop. We're going to have it make, we're going to make it go into a square path here, and it's going to loop and auto start and all that. So what you do is, just like Kelly script, if you're familiar, you have a create path right here. You click on that. It creates a green cube. That's where it's going to start out. Move it. And we're going to create another path. And you notice you can create as many paths as you want. And if you didn't like your last path there, and this is called gizmos in Unity. So if you have your path selected, you can see the path where it goes to. And of course the green is where it starts. And what we're going to do is we're going to delete our last path because maybe we didn't like it there. So we're going to adjust it right here. Whoops, create path. Whoops, I didn't mean to create a path right there, and I didn't mean to create a path right there. So what you can do is you can also go here. Element 0 is your first one, then this is element 1. So here's element 2. If I move based on the x-axis, you can tell right here on this coordinate system the x-axis is this way. So if I click and drag it, I can move this during live, and I can go to the fourth one and just adjust it this way. So that makes it very easy to modify. And it doesn't matter where you stick this, it's always gonna snap to the first one here. So let's get an orthographic mode. And just to show how it all works, let's put the scene right there. And if we click play, you can see this moving platform in action. Oh, and of course there's something else you need to do, which is really important to make this work. Okay, we said we stuck it, or we took out the static, but there's also one more step you need to do, and it's the mesh, or it's the mesh part right here. So normally, if you want to do it the easy way, you do game object, you do 3D cube or whatever, and you do this, and you shape it, and you'll notice it comes with something called a box collider here. And what you would do is you hit edit collider, and then you can drag this, and you just want to make sure you have it stick out. And that's simply because if it's like this, the way the character object or the player controller works is that it's going to be fighting or trying to decide if it's actually on the platform or not. It's going to say it's on the platform, then it's not on the platform, it's on the platform, it's not. So to make sure we tell it it's actually on the platform, you just stick it out just a little bit from the top, and then you'll notice there's this green dot here. If you unselect it, then you need to make sure you click the edit collider again, click on that middle dot precisely, increase it just a little bit, and bam, you're telling basically the player object, yes, you're on the platform, because we have this little padding here. But you'll notice with this object here that we created, and let's just delete this, this does not have a mesh collider, or I mean this does not have a box collider. You can't really mess with a mesh collider, and this could technically work. If I hit play, I think it actually just works, but you may have a few bugs, like you may stick on it, you may not, and this is on a movement speed of 1. So actually, yeah, it works. Huh, I'm actually surprised. So I guess you don't exactly have to do what I was about to say, but if for some reason you have bugs and your character's not really sticking on the platform, then just remove this component, the mesh collider. Again, I click on the gear object here, and then I just click remove component, and I'll just give it a box component. It'll automatically fit the size of the box component, hit the edit collider, and then just bring it up. In this case, for some reason, it prioritizes the top quad, so you have to bring it down and then bring it up. But again, you don't have to worry about it if it just works for you right off the bat. That's just in case you need to yell at someone. Hopefully you don't, because this might fix your issue. And let's increase the speed to 3. So you hit the play button, and you have a moving platform script that just works. Voila, and I missed the bus stop. So we have to wait for it to come back anytime now. Okay, this is actually kind of a small moving platform, but as you can see, I am stuck to it now, as like before. And then you just complete the level, and it goes over there, and yeah, you beat it. Okay, but we want to do more than that. We want to have like a cool interactable script. So let's say this moving platform did not auto start, right? We can uncheck the auto start, and if we click play, you'll notice that the platform will not move. It'll just stay there in place. Nothing you do to it will activate it. This is when my interactable script comes in, and the interactable script is amazing. You can use it for everything. So for example, let's what I usually do is I just go to game object, 3D object, I just create a cube here, and here's a cube is created. And the first thing you do is, let's make this a trigger. So for your sanity, please click on this box up here and give it a bubble, and then name it something appropriately, because it's going to be invisible and you're not going to see this again unless you have the bubble on. So there, this is going to be your trigger. We're going to disable the mesh renderer, so now it's invisible. As you can see, that's why this is very important. And we're going to click on is trigger right here, which means now you can go through it. It's not just an invisible object, and you can scale this trigger. So we can say the moment you go to the edge of this little cliff here, it will do something. But to do something, we want to make sure we add a script here. So go to add component again, and we're going to be using my second script called the interactable. So you press enter, and you have it right here. And you'll notice the first thing you should look at is the interact type. It's set to none by default, so it won't do anything. You have all these options. You have auto run, you have symbol, on collision enter, on collision exit, on trigger enter, and on trigger exit. As the name applies, the moment you touch, or if you set it to on trigger enter, the moment you touch this trigger, it's gonna do some sort of event. And on collision enter works differently. You would have to have is trigger off, and the moment something touches you, like let's say a projectile hits the player, then all of a sudden you can have some event happen, like maybe the wall disappears, I don't know. And auto run means it'll just happen the moment you hit the play button, the moment the game starts, which is something you could do, which could be really cool, but I don't see a lot of things you can do with it at the moment. But it also works if the moment you have, like let's say you have another interactable script, right? You have that interactable script turn on this interactable script, and the moment this turns on, then the auto run starts. So that's another cool thing you can do, but it would be kind of silly to chain interactable scripts because you can just have the event here do things. Okay, now that I'm done with my rambling with the whole interact type, the real magic begins is here at the events. If you hit this plus button, this thing comes up and you can have multiple of these things, and we're going to subtract those, and we're just going to have one thing. And we're going to make sure we set it to on trigger enter because we made this a trigger, which if you check that, it's now a trigger. You're not going to collide with it. You're going to go through it. And on trigger enter, what we're going to do is, if you find this moving platform here, there's the moving platform. If we just drag and drop the moving platform there, then now we can access every single thing attached to this object. So here we can just turn off the object and it'll disappear. We can, I don't know, there's nothing you can do there. You can turn off the mesh renderer so it becomes invisible, but it's still there. You can turn on the gravity. I think by default the gravity is false, and it can just fall down for some reason. Or you can also access all my functions in my script. So I have the start movement, and the moment you go into this zone here, the non-auto started object will run. And this is basically how I got that wall to go down in my showcase. You step into a visible trigger and the wall slides down. In this case, this thing will move if you step into that little area. Let's take out the maximize on play actually. So as you can see here, the moment the player steps into this little green visible area here, then the platform will move. And if we set it to if we set the trigger to work on exit, then as the name implies, you have to enter it, but the moment you exit it, it'll fire off. So here we go, where we enter the trigger. Now the moment we exit off, it moves, which is just really cool. And you can just put the trigger on this itself. So let's say you want the trigger to start the moment the player touches this object here. So the moment the player touches this thing, it's gonna auto run. So here we go, like, oh, okay, let's just jump on that. And, oh, I have it on exit. No, this is awkward. And there we go. As you can see, it keeps going. And of course you want to make it to the end, and then that works. And it's good practice to have the trigger itself disabled, so you can click another plus, and you can just drag the trigger itself in here. And you can say set game object to false, just in case if you foresee any problems of hitting the trigger multiple times. Like let's say you have a wall sliding down, and for some reason if you hit the trigger again, then the wall will go back up and then it'll slide back down. So you only want that to happen once, so it's good to disable itself. But this is why this interactable script is really cool, because you can just have full control off of everything. If you're having problems with trying to have something trigger, this interactable script will do all of that for you, and that's where all the magic happens here. So the moment I touch this thing, or this invisible trigger box, it's gonna make the platform move, and it's gonna disable itself for just simplicity's sake, just in case something happens. So let's say we have another trigger here, or another object here. Let's just create a wall, just to show off how I did that whole wall segment. So there, we're gonna have this giant wall here, and you're not exactly capable of going through it. And we're gonna add another component. We're gonna add the move platform v2 script. We're gonna say create path right here, and we're gonna create a path right here. And we're gonna say it's not gonna auto start, it's not gonna be loopable. Remember, it doesn't matter where you play or place this, it's always gonna snap to the green object in the beginning, so I could just have it down here. It's gonna be right where it was initially. And it's safe to check that this is not a platform, just so you don't stick to it. Not that it's gonna have any problems. If this was a moving piston and you touch the piston, then yeah, you'll be dragged along with it if it pulls back or pushes forward. But in this case, it just goes up and down. So unless it was moving up, you'll notice your player is moving up with it. But if it's moving down, you're already stuck on the ground, so it's not a big deal. So, and we're gonna have this speed like 2.5, and we can have this activate the same way the way we did before. We just go and create a new object, a cube. We're gonna add a component. We're gonna make it an interactable script, and this time instead of making a trigger, let's just say if we touch this box, because we like touching a box, we're gonna set the interact type to on collision enter. And let's just click the plus to add an event. And where's that wall? Let's name it something. So you can click and drag it here if you know the name of it. Or you can click on here, click on scene, and type in the name. If it has a unique name, this might be easier. If your hierarchy here is cluttered, you could also do it like that. And let's just say, like for example, let's not even mess with the moving. Wait, was that the right one? No. What did I name wall? Okay, so let's just unname that wall. Click on this. Like let's say for example, I just want to disable this. You can do that. So we're gonna drag that cube here, and wait, it's not that cube, it's this cube. Wall. There we go. This is why you name things appropriately. And we go to no function, and let's just say we disable the game object, just to show that this works. And you'll notice that this is unchecked, which means game object.setActive equals false. So we're gonna step on this platform. Oh, I forgot, I have it set on you enter the trigger, and then the moment you exit, it activates. But whatever. So the moment I touch this, it disappears. Really cool. Or we can go to my thing again, do start movement, and the moment you touch it, and let's fix this trigger here. Let's say on trigger enter, not on trigger exit. There we go, let's start. And let's make this platform bigger. And let's just make it faster too, because the moment we touch the platform, we're going to be on it. Alright. And then we can just walk on it. Wait, did I not have it set to on trigger enter? Hello? Trigger. Oh, wow. Look at that. I haven't even stepped in the trigger yet. I forgot I sized it. So there we go. It goes. You notice the camera jitters a bit, and I hope this wall doesn't hit me here. And if you want to fix that issue, and if it's causing you stress, and you still feel like you want to yell at someone, please don't. Go to the player V camera here, which is the camera that's used to track you, and you can go under here under body and just turn the dampening off all the way to 0 for all of them, and it will actually make your camera smoother. I don't know why, I'm not familiar with Cinema Machine, and you'll notice that it doesn't jitter as it did before. And of course make sure you do that in non-play mode, because then it doesn't save. But anyways, now the moment we touch this cube on collision enter, because this isn't a trigger, I can actually touch it, and you'll notice this slides down. And that's really cool. But let's say, oh, and let's fix that trigger. Let's move the trigger over here. There we go. Okay, let's say we don't want to like enter a trigger zone or touch something. We want to make it where if we interact with this symbol, this thing will go down. So we can do that. You simply have to make sure it has a simple logic, which it should because it's a symbol. And when you do the when you add my interactable script, you can go to interact type, make sure it's on symbol. So the moment this symbol turns on, we can say that this wall will be activated. So click plus, you can have as many objects as you want, and we're gonna drag and drop that wall in there, or you can search it and just make sure it has a unique name. And we're gonna go to the function, move platform, start movement. So this wall is gonna move the moment we activate the symbol. Let's make it slow, so because we had to go through that cutscene since it's the last symbol, or it's the only symbol in this case. But I'm sure you should be able to know how to add multiple symbols, because that's something Kelly showed you guys. So here we're gonna step on this moving platform. It's gonna move. I didn't save my making my dampening 0. So the moment I activate this symbol and it turns on, you notice that this slides down slowly. And you can, fun fact, you can actually move during the door cutscene. So there we go. And now I can proceed to the next level. So I hope that gives you a lot of ideas. The one last thing I'm going to do is just break down how my showcase works now that you got all the fundamentals. We're not going to save that. So here we're going to go into my platforms and triggers scene. And here it is. So first thing you'll notice is that here is my pistons. Like, as you can guess, this is a moving platform. It auto starts and it's loopable, and it moves between just 2 points here. So As you can see, it starts right here and it starts right here. So basically what it's saying is at the origin where the crosshairs meet, it's going to start here, and then the second one, it goes right here. And that's basically how it works, and it just loops between the two. And then you have like this moving object here that tries to knock the player. And all these do the same thing, they're just at different speeds. And here, you'll notice that this one has two symbols. So because it has two symbols, if I activate this, you don't go through that cutscene because it's not the final symbol. And because of that, we can view how this works. And you can see how it just comes up and doesn't just suddenly appear like this one. This suddenly appears and the player might not realize. But here, if you click on this, each of these is a moving platform. So here, it starts with at that point down there, and this is auto start is disabled and loopable is disabled. So since loopable is disabled, it's not going to come back up here and go down like this because that's loopable. And since auto start is disabled, it's not going to automatically just go up. So with those two disabled, we use that start movement on our move platform script, and I'll fly up. And it does, and each one does the same thing at different speeds. And the magic happens here at the symbol. So you notice that the symbol has an interactable script here, right? And you'll notice that there's a lot of these because each of these moving platforms is its own script, and each one I go into its move platform and I'm starting its movement. So the moment you turn on this symbol, it tells all of those moving platforms to start, and that's how that works. And then you should know how the moving platform script works here. It just goes, you just create each of those points. So I can just create another point here. I can even go on the y-axis if I want, and just say create point, and there now it's just gonna go up there for whatever reason. And my favorite by far, first, there's the trigger wall. So the moment you interact with this or step into this trigger, again, this is a moving platform. It works exactly like those other platforms, like the pistons and these tiles here. And it'll simply start, I don't know why the green cube's there. The origin point for some reason is right there, but it actually puts it right here initially, and it'll slide down to the red cube down here, which as you can see right there. And as you can guess, it's also the auto start doesn't happen, and it's not loopable, and it's between 2 points. So the moment you do start movement, it's going to go down and then it just stops. And then for the ball here that kills the player right off the beginning, I have a level, or not a level manager, I have a trigger right here. So I try to time this correctly. The moment you step through this trigger and the player keeps moving, this ball here is set to is kinematic, right? If you have a rigid body attached to anything here, and we're going to jump to my scene view. So if you attach, like for example, if I just go here, let's just pause the game. If I go here, 3D object, and if I just create a cube here, and if I attach a rigid component to it, or a rigid body, and oh gosh, let's just do this then. And let's bring that back up. So the moment you attach this rigid body to something, let's remove it. So there's no rigid body, then we add a rigid body to it. Then it has physics and it falls down. And it's really cool, and it's so simple, just adding physics in Unity. And the way you have something paused, or the way you have its physics disabled, is you notice there's no checkbox here. However, if you set it to is kinematic, it doesn't go off. But if I uncheck that, then the ball starts rolling. And then I can uncheck that, and then the ball stops moving. I can start it again, loses its velocity, and then it falls down slowly, and hopefully it kills the player. And I simply use an interactable script for that. So, and again, if you remember how the interactable script works, because the rigid body is a component of sphere, I can mess with basically virtually all of these things. So anything like with a checkbox, including the entire game object itself, can be checked off and on. So if we look at this trigger ball interactable script here, it's a trigger. It interacts if you enter the trigger, and the event that's going to be affected is this sphere here, which we have selected. And the moment that you touch it, one of the functions, you go under rigid body, and I set, and then you go to bool is kinematic, and I say is kinematic is false. So the moment the player, wherever the player is at, let's just drag the player there. So the moment this player here is right there, and I think he's touching the trigger box right now. Trigger ball. Yeah, let's just move the trigger ball here. So the moment the player touches this object here, pay attention to this is kinematic right here, and you know the zone is right here. So the moment I touch that, the is kinematic turns off, the ball rolls down, and the player doesn't die this time. And that's basically how I did all of this. So hopefully that gives you a lot of cool ideas, and of course my level's provided, so you can just take it apart and you could do a lot of cool things. You can chain all of this up, and if you have your own scripts, you can use my own interactable scripts to interact with your script. Basically, as long as you set a public function, you can basically trigger anything you want, and it's really cool. So I hope that gives you a lot of ideas, and if I have time, and if you really need help, my name is Glauz in the Discord channel, so you can just DM me from there. But other than that, I hope you have a good day.